Okay, let's just dive right into one of the biggest questions there is. Have you ever really stopped to think about how the physical stuff in your head, this, 3-pound lump of tissue we call a brain, actually creates the feeling of being you? Today, that's exactly what we're tackling. The incredible journey from plain old matter to profound meaning. I mean, really think about it. We all have these incredible inner lives. We feel awe looking at the stars, we feel love, we have those aha moments of pure understanding. But how on earth does the biological hardware in our skulls produce any of that? How does a bunch of cells and electricity become our lived, subjective experience? Now, this puzzle has been around for centuries, and it has stumped some of the greatest minds in science and philosophy. It's such a big deal, in fact, that they've given this mystery an official name, the explanatory gap. So, what is the explanatory gap? Well, it's basically this giant chasm between two worlds. On one side, you have the objective world of firing neurons and electrical signals. On the other, you have the subjective world of what those signals actually feel like to us. It's the core of the problem. How does a pattern of electricity transform into a feeling of significance? And look, neuroscience has gotten incredibly good at mapping the physical stuff, right? We can trace the brain's wiring, we can watch the signals fly around, we can see how different parts talk to each other, but that's only half the story. The other half is what we still can't explain. Why any of it matters to us? Where does the weight, the feeling, the actual meaning come from? So how have we tried to bridge this gap so far? Well, for a long, long time, the go-to answer has been this one, very powerful sounding word. That word is emergence. The basic idea is that meaning just kind of appears once the brain's network hits a certain level of complexity. It's a bit like how a flock of birds creates these beautiful, intricate patterns without any single bird being in charge. It's a really cool idea, but it has a pretty big flaw. And this really gets to the heart of it. The word emergence is just a label we've slapped on the mystery. It tells us that a transition happens from brain activity to meaning, but it gives us absolutely zero clue as to how. It's just a placeholder, not a real explanation. And this is where our deep dive today gets really exciting, because we're looking at a fascinating new proposal called the Brain Kinematics Model, or BKM, and it suggests there might be a concrete physical mechanism to finally bridge that gap. The core idea here is a really beautiful shift in how we think about the brain. Instead of seeing it as a computer that's just shuffling around abstract bits of data, BKM asks us to imagine it as a huge physical orchestra. And this analogy, it turns out, is the key to the whole thing. So in this mental orchestra, our memories are built in layers. At the bottom, you've got symbols. These are like individual musical notes. Think of the concept tree. Then you have metaphors. These are like musical phrases that connect the notes, like linking tree to strength or growth. And finally, at the top, you have themes. These are the grand symphonies, like the whole overarching idea of nature that guides all the music below it. Okay, so how does this orchestra actually create meaning? BKM suggests that the missing link we've all been looking for isn't some mysterious magical leap. It's something we can actually describe using the language of physics. The first step is a big one. We have to redefine what information even is. In this model, it's not just abstract ones and zeros. Information is a real, tangible form of physical energy that's flowing through the brain's actual structures. The model even gives this energy a name: strain phase energy. Now, what does that mean? Well, think about our orchestra again. It's not just the electricity in the sound system's wires, it's also the physical vibration of the violin strings, the movement of the air from the brass section. It's all the physical forces, the electrical, the magnetic, and the mechanical, all working together in our neural tissue. And here it is. This is the absolute bombshell at the center of this idea. Meaning isn't some ghost in the machine. It is a physical state. It's what happens when all those different energy flows, all the instruments in our orchestra, perfectly align and harmonize. It's the resonant coherence of the whole system, like a powerful, unified chord that rings through everything. The technical name for this mechanism is phase continuity. It's the moment when all these different physical energy fields sync up, creating one continuous, coherent pattern. That harmony, that physical resonance, is the experience of understanding. The gap is closed. So let's just take a second to appreciate what a huge shift this is. With the old view, you have a mysterious, unexplainable leap. But in the BKM view, you have a measurable, physical phase transition. Information goes from being abstract signals to being real physical energy. And most importantly, meaning stops being some vague, emergent thing and becomes a concrete physical state of resonance. Okay, so if this model is even close to be right, the implications are just staggering. This isn't just some new theory for scientists in a lab. It could fundamentally change how we see ourselves and the world. I mean, just think about it. For philosophy, that ancient divide between the brain and the mind, it could just dissolve. For clinical science, disorders like depression or PTSD might be seen as kinds of neural dissonance, stuck, negative resonant patterns that are really hard to break out of. For neuroscience, we could finally start looking for the physical signature of meaning itself, the symphony, not just the instruments. And for culture, our biggest ideas, religion, science, could be seen as these massive, shared, resonant themes that entire societies tune into. So at the end of the day, we're left with this really powerful personal thought. If meaning truly is a state of physical harmony, a resonance happening inside our own neural orchestra, it brings up a really interesting question. What symphony is your brain playing right at this very moment? And maybe more importantly, what can you do to change the tune?